How are we doing?
Good, how are you?
Good.
You said you were going to go back and look at the film of Dorian to assess his performance. What did you see when you went back and looked?
I thought Dorian did a good job. I think we've got to do a better job protecting him at times. There's some times when weren't in the right protection call where we should have had some linebackers picked up that came off the edge that I think in his mind they should have been picked up. So there's a little bit of miscommunication we have to work on, but I thought Dorian did a nice job.
Is he your starter this week?
Again, what we say every week, who's going to give us the best chance to win, and we got a whole week of training. So he could sprain his ankle tomorrow, and that means he's not going to be here. So we always make our assessments at the end of the week.
Boss said that those calls were on him. Was that his responsibility?
It's everybody's responsibility. I don't think one person stands out, and we're not a blame operation. So we're always just trying to find the solutions on how we can get better. So we don't come in and say, hey, it's this guy's fault or that guy's fault. This isn't. I think sometimes you spend too much time trying to figure out the blame, and we're about figuring out what the solution is.
How did Welton take not getting that start, being available? I mean, he came here for 1 year. And
well, that's a good question for Welton.
Okay, can we talk to him?
Yeah, sure.
What's the status of Mike Juarez right now?
Mike's out right now.
He's out.
Yeah.
How about Justin Murphy?
Murphy's, I think we'll try to see what he can do today. So he's day to day.
What about Jabari Anderson?
He's out.
He's out. Does that mean he's day to day?
That means he's out. So we're out or day to day. So he's out.
Out this week.
He's out.
The teams you played, I think, are combined 17-1.
I think
How much does that go into what's happened these first 4 games?
I mean, I don't spend a lot of time looking at the standings. I mean, we're 0-4. I know that's scheduled, so I don't know that they're 17-1 or they're 18-2 or whatever. I mean, that doesn't mean anything to us. We just play who's on our schedule, and we got to go out and perform better because we didn't win in those 4 opportunities to play against 4 really good football teams. But we're not ones that try to quantify. Well, we're 0-4, but they're 18-1 or 17-1. And that's just a waste of time, to be honest with you.
I can't. Have you ever faced Chris Peterson?
Yeah, I faced him when he was head coach at Boise, and I was
at Boise. Okay.
Yeah. Pete's a hell of a coach.
Yeah. What stands out about his
I think he's,
team?
all of his teams are very disciplined. All of his teams are sound in all 3 phases. It's not that it's this team, they're unbelievable offensively, but they're not good on defense, or this team's unbelievable on defense, but they're not good on offense. They're sound in all 3 phases. They've got their quarterback went 23-25 the other day against a really good BYU team that had beaten Wisconsin. So they've always been sound. They're versatile on the offensive side of the ball. They'll give you a lot of different looks. We had Kellen Moore before, who was an outstanding college quarterback, one of the best college quarterbacks ever played. I think Kellen went 50-3 in his career at Boise under him. Jake's in the same mold, just a cerebral quarterback that will take anything that the defense gives him. I think it's the mark of a great quarterback, and he's as good as we're going to face this year. They're really, really good on the defensive side of the ball. They got a lot of really good players over there, and they're always sound in the kicking game. So there's really no weaknesses. You got to come out and you got to play a 60-minute game if you're going to play against a Chris Peterson team.
On Saturday, you mentioned Dorian doing all the things that you've asked of him so far. What are some of the points that you've emphasized to him that you've seen him do well?
I think he grows. He usually doesn't make the same mistake twice. I think the only one thing that you could say about Dorian is he doesn't have a lot of experience because he's a freshman quarterback. So, he's played in 4 games, started 3, and so there's a lot of times when sometimes it's the first look he's seen that. So you try to coach him up during the week during training, but he's a really coachable kid. I love his teachable spirit and how he handles everything, and he's really even-keeled. He doesn't get flustered out there. Sometimes the moment can get too big for younger kids. They kind of get overwhelmed with it. I don't think he's never once been overwhelmed by the moment, and so you love coaching him because of his approach to everything. He wants to get better every day. He wants to learn every day. So.
What was your second impression of Joshua Kelly's performance after watching?
I thought Josh did a really good job, but I think we talked about in our meeting, it came back to Josh had 2 really good weeks of training leading up to it, and didn't play a whole heck of a lot against Fresno because the other guys had better weeks of training. It's there's a lot of competition at the running back spot, but instead of sulking and putting his head down, Josh just went to work. And through our improvement week, and then through game week for Colorado, did some really good things. We pointed him out on tape. Here's a good read, here's a good cut, and then how he trained is how he played in the game. So I'm really excited about Josh right now, and he's a guy that I think the rest of our team can look at of how to approach things, because he probably wasn't happy with the amount of playing time he had against Fresno, but instead of sulking and moping, he said, all right, then let's go out and train, and did a really good job in those 2 weeks, and it paid off for him. So there's a lot of internal competition on this team, and there'll always be internal competition, and you know, it's not about what you did in the past. It's about what we're doing right now. So I anticipate him to go out and have a really good week of training again. But I anticipate the other guys to kind of up their game too. So it'll be hopefully we'll get some more competition in our training sessions, and that will help us because we're playing a really good team this week.
Do you think that might have been part of his motivation that he didn't get that many snaps?
I would hope it's somebody's motivation. I don't think anybody goes out here all week long to train and not play. So playing time is a real valuable commodity. And so, and we're a one-back operation, so one back's going to play. And who is it? And I think Deshaun handles it during the game and did a really good job. You know, Josh had the hot hand, and you know we kind of rode him, and I think it paid off for us in the run game. So.
What were your impressions of the penalties when you got to look back on tape?
You know, I think the two of them that, you know, we extended drives. We had them off the field on third down. You know, and we got to work on them. It's not one thing. It's not a bunch of holdings or a bunch of interferences or a bunch of these. It's, you know, it's individual things. And when we talk to those individual players about how they could have played that play better.
Is that indicative of maybe a younger, inexperienced team?
No, I don't. I think that's an excuse. So we're young and inexperienced, so we're allowed to get penalties. That's we're not in the excuse business. They're unacceptable, and we'll correct them.
What about Chanel? He got loose a couple times.
Yeah, he's a good player. But you didn't know how to pronounce his name last week. I think you do now. I think we all do. But I think he's done that. Did it against Colorado State. He did it against Nebraska. I think when you have a good player, and again, I think what Mike does scheme-wise, he moves him around so much that you can't say we got to double him everywhere he is because he's in so many different spots. You know, he lined up at quarterback. You know, he lined up at slot receiver. He lined up out wide. They brought him in motion. They do a lot of really good things with him. But you know, sometimes when you have a good player like that, you gotta. You know, we were all cognizant of where he was on every play, but I still think that a lot of credit goes to him. One of those catches he made with 3 or 4 guys draped over him, went up in a crowd and got it. But I think that speaks more to the type of player that he is. So.
Any more questions?
Thanks, guys.